You're listening to The Sports Fix.
Portions of The Sports Fix brought to you by Harry Buffalo. Harry Buffalo, join the herd.
Sports Fix listeners, don't wait all day or all week to get in on the fun. The party doesn't stop when we go off the air all week long. The Sports Fix social media sites are your one-stop shop for all things Cleveland sports. Jump over to Facebook.com/TheSportsFix, Facebook.com/TheSportsFix, and become a fan today because we love fans and they create some of the best sports talk in town, Daddy. You'll enjoy talking to your fellow Cleveland sports fans on the Sports Fix fan page. And if Twitter's your thing, well, you know how we do it. Tweet with us at The Sports Fix CLE. It's that simple.
Twitter.com/TheSportsFixCLE, baby.
Chat live with the crew during all your favorite Cleveland sports events, tickets and contests and trivia and so much more. Get with us today, The Sports Fix on social media, Facebook.com/TheSportsFix. Tweet with us at The Sports Fix CLE. Join The Sports Fix on Facebook and Twitter today.
Hi, I'm Hector Marinero. You're listening to The Sports Fix.
Live in Ohio, it's time to get your fix. The Sports Fix.
Welcome in, everybody. We are live. We are on the air, baby. Rocking and rolling. Today's edition, Wednesday, Hump Day edition of the Sports Fix. It's never as bad as when you blast through it with us. Hopefully, anyway, we'll get at least a couple hours of it knocked out for you and get it moving that much closer to the second half of the week here. We've got a lot coming up here today on the slate of guests, a whole lot of a wide variety. It's fitting. It's November, Thanksgiving. We got a cornucopia going today here on the Sports Fix. Just about 15 minutes from now, Eddy Jansen from More Than a Fan Cleveland, Cavaliers beat writer, going to join us, talk about those Cavaliers through the first stretch of games here. They've got a whole lot of, speaking of Thanksgiving, a whole lot of home cooking coming up for them over the month of November, which could be just what the recipe calls for them to continue to evolve in putting this team together. Eddy Jansen, we're going to talk about that. And if you're David Griffin, what are you seeing right now in the pieces that you have and how they're fitting together? And perhaps what questions may you want to still have answered? Let's talk about all of that with Eddy Jansen from More Than a Fan Cleveland here, talking about Cavaliers. We've got John McMullen from the Sports Network. John's usually with us on Mondays, you guys know that, because of the Monday Night Clash. He also covers the Eagles up there, so we moved to Wednesday, which works out because, bam, right here in the middle of the week, jump shot towards the next week of the NFL. We'll talk to John McMullen about the Browns, get his thoughts on their victory over Cincinnati, and look forward to the challenges and pitfalls that we know that they've got coming here with Houston coming up this weekend as well. I want to talk to him a little bit too. It's funny, with him being up there and seeing Philly and all that. Chip Kelly, Mike Pettine. There's a whole lot of people that I've had that conversation with because some people really loved, and I wasn't a Chip Kelly guy because it's funny because you got to fall in one side of the camp or the other. And, I like the style of Mike Pettine, but clearly there's a lot to like if you're an offensive type guy about what Chip Kelly does out there too. So let's not fool ourselves. But we're going to talk about all of that with John McMullen. We'll look ahead to the next week of games. Can't wait to have John McMullen from the Sports Network with us here a little bit later on. Of course, it's Wednesdays, you guys. That means Dan Wismar from the Cleveland Fan's going to be here. We'll get his thoughts about the Browns and what he thinks they're going to do this coming weekend. Corey Kluber, it's Corey Kluber Appreciation Day as far as I'm concerned today. Seeing a lot of that love out across the social media networks and out everywhere because, of course, Cy Young voting goes down today, or it went down. It gets announced today. We'll find out what's going on, and if Corey Kluber brings home the hardware, we'll talk to Dan about that. And, of course, we'll preview the Buckeyes, Ohio State. Next one up there, speaking of Ohio State, we'll also talk about the college football playoff rankings here. We'll talk about Terry Francona. You know what? Let me just start real quick. Before we even do the introduction to this, well, maybe I should. But fifth, really? We'll get into it in a minute here. All right, guys, let's do what we do. That's the slate of guests. By the way, real quick, Doug Plagans, voice of the Monsters, was supposed to be with us every Tuesday. He's always with us on Tuesdays. He was traveling yesterday, said he was going to be here today. Change of plans. He will be here, set in stone tomorrow. It works out better, actually, because they're playing the game, and then we can talk about the last few games and look ahead to what's coming up here. So it kind of works out better in the scheduling that way. So Doug Plagans, if you're tuning in for him today, Doug will be with us tomorrow near the end of hour 2. Doug will be with us. So Doug Plagans of the Monsters with us here tomorrow. Let's roll. Let's open this thing up and get going here. Let's do it. Welcome into the Sports Fix. J-Rock with you. Jerry Myers. Call me what you wish. I am the conductor and the coordinator of the madness that we do here each and every weekday at noon right here on the Sports Fix Radio Network, which is TuneIn. TuneIn's radio app. A lot of you listen live on there and subscribe to us as well. Many of you listening live on Spreaker and their great network, and as well on Mixlr. Welcome into my guys in the Mixlr chat room as well. MIXLR.com for those of you that may be looking for that whenever I do mention it here on the air. And, of course, the website. Many of you listen live right on our home base, thesportsfix.net. Thank you so much for being with us. If you don't, bookmark it, because among all the other things, all the social media, all the news and headlines that are on there, as well, if you ever have trouble listening to the show in any of the 8 million platforms that I tell you guys about every day, you can always, as a fail-safe, if you're having trouble finding the show or if something's not working, your fail-safe is always the website, thesportsfix.net. You don't even have to push a button. You just go to the website while the show's live, and it's live as live can be right there for you. So bookmark it, thesportsfix.net. As well, welcome in all of you guys who listen 24/7, as we say, on digital delay around the world. Really, thousands of you all over the world. It amazes me every day listening on iHeartRadio, which is the world's largest, literally because of the reach, the largest internet radio provider. Many of you listen as well, downloading us on iTunes and on Stitcher and CarPlay and all the different SoundCloud, all the different places that you guys download the show. Thank you again so much for being with us. And don't just be with us. I say it every day. Be a part of the show. I get the questions. Matter of fact, I'm going to answer. I got one here this morning. I said, you know what? I'm just going to answer your question on the air, buddy. But hit us up. Do it. Phones are open. They're open for about the next 7 minutes until we get Eddy on the show. Then they're going to be pretty busy for most of the show. 216-539-7535 is the number to call. 216-539-7535. Facebook, Twitter, always the easiest ways to get through 24/7. Facebook.com/thesportsfix. Tweet with us at the SportsFix CLE. Email us, thesportsfix@AOL.com. Again, Facebook.com/thesportsfix. Tweet with us at the SportsFix CLE. Email us, thesportsfix@AOL.com. Yeah, I saw that real quick in the chat room, Bruce. The no triple-double. So we're still awaiting the first LeBron James triple-double since he came back. They took it from him. Matter of fact, I got like 3. It was funny. When the news hit, I could have told you what time it was because I got about 3 different text messages within 30 seconds of each other. Man, what's up with that, man? They took LeBron's triple-double. I'm like, first off, I don't care. But, I get, it was funny, the reaction. But anyways, yeah, a miscounted assist there. And so a change in the statistical scoring. LeBron no longer with a triple-double, with a double-double and a high single instead. But whatever, that's the statistical. And to me, that means nothing except nothing, really. But when you hear the explanation, you do wonder how they made that mistake, because on the play that they miscredited, LeBron had nothing to do with there was no assist on the play at all, but it was like a hockey assist. I think they gave LeBron the old hockey assist on that one is what it was, man. And he was the guy who got it to the guy who still didn't assist it. But anyways, that's worth like 30 seconds of talking about. But yeah, Bruce, I saw that yesterday. I said, well, what do you know? I bet you he's crying in his beer tonight over that one. Absolutely not. Real quick, speaking of some things from yesterday, before we're going to go to the break, we're going to get Eddy and we'll talk about those Cavaliers here in a few. But I wanted to get away from that for a second. Of course, yesterday we were talking about the American League, National League Manager of the Year awards. Today, as we've mentioned, the Cy Young Award. Tomorrow, the big one, the MVP award, as the final of the award season goes out here. But a little bit surprised. We talked yesterday. I know Jeff Gorman was with me as far as Ned Yost, and I understood. I saw some of you guys in the chat room talking about it yesterday about, because it's done before the World Series. I'm sure that affected Ned Yost, but I thought still navigating what he did, especially with a team that I don't know was necessarily expected to leapfrog both the Indians and Detroit. Not that they leapfrog Detroit. I guess looking at it from the end of the season perspective, I don't have a problem with Buck Showalter at all, But can somebody tell me how there were 4 managers better than Terry Francona this year? And I'm not going to go too crazy on this, but when I saw 5th, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th, I'm like, you've got to be kidding me, right? I mean, I get the other guys, so it's hard to take that argument out. Ned Yost, I get it. Showalter, to me, not as impressive when you do it with the big money and all of that. So, Lloyd McClendon, I can hear a little bit, but man, come on. Look at what Terry, well, we've talked about it. You know where I'm at with Terry Francona and what he did this year compared to last year. And I said, man, he deserves it more this year than he did last year. And I said, man, well, it got buried under because there was no big flashy, headlines coming out of this season. It was, just kind of the season that was as far as a lot of people looking on the outside. And I wonder if that same pen is going to brush against, it probably is, against Corey Kluber with his balloting as well, because it's just, it makes it stand out a little bit less. But I was just like, 5? Really? 5 guys higher than 4 guys higher than Terry? Man, I don't know about that. But anyways, it is what it is. And that was it. So Buck Showalter, the American League Manager of the Year, former temporary Indian, Matt Williams over on the other side for the job. And that makes sense when you realize that the voting's done before the playoffs, because clearly they had the great regular season over there. And you do got to keep that in mind, that voting's all locked in place before that. And then the manager is where it does get a little tricky, because then you'll get a guy that goes on a run like Ned Yost, and that doesn't actually count towards that. But every 10 years, he's right. Bruce in the chat room said every 10 years Showalter wins it, and you chuckle because you think he's being funny, but he's not. It's the 3rd time Buck Showalter has been the Manager of the Year. He won it in 1994 and in 2004. So he's with a much longer drought. He's like the San Francisco Giants of the Manager of the Year award every time. So pencil it in. If he's still up and ticking, the 2024 Manager of the Year will be Buck Showalter somewhere. He'll be managing somebody, and he'll win that thing again. But yeah, that's one of those weird statistical anomalies there. 10 years apart, he's won it 3 times there over that stretch. Interesting stuff. Cy Young tonight, as I said, we'll talk about that. Speaking of numbers, and we're throwing out who finished 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th. We're going to get into it in more detail with Dan Wismar, the Cleveland fan. But as we talked about Monday, when we were looking ahead to where the voting may go after last weekend's games, Ohio State jumped pretty much where I think most of us thought we were saying Monday would end up, pretty much switching places with Michigan State there. And I think we're seeing that too. Some of the things, I want to get more into it when we've got Dan on the show to join the conversation. But, man, interesting stuff you're kind of seeing about how the committee values certain things, because they definitely aren't afraid to go out there and do their thing. They're putting it where they think it should be. And I kind of like that, even though, of course, it opens up so many questions about subjectivity, and then still I'm going to see who ends up where when this thing is over with. But they've got no problem explaining themselves, and I think and that clears up some of that transparency. We can argue the points that they make, but they have no problem, and we'll talk more about this, coming out and saying here's why. They don't just lay it out there and let you speculate, well, why did they put this person there and that team there? They lay it out there, and then they're not afraid to answer the questions and say, this is why we got TCU here and Baylor here, and this is why we've got, whatever the situation may be. So I kind of like that. So we'll talk about that here with Dan Wismar coming up a little bit on, but let's start on the hardwood. Basketball, Cavaliers style. Eddy Jansen, beat writer for More Than a Fan Cleveland. He's going to join us here to start things off. We'll talk some Cavs hoops as they've got a few days like we do here. I saw I saw the Cavs are good on social media. You know, some of these teams just ignore all of the fans unless they have like a picture or something. Then they'll maybe 1 in a million retweet it, but they don't use social media right. It can't be